Okay, here I am doing the molds for the cockpit, the nose cone, and a bunch of underwing or inside wing detail parts. You can see here this cockpit mold was also made by casting it in one piece and cutting it apart, and you can see the jagged nature of the cuts allow it to lock back together pretty easily, pretty much eliminating much flash at all. Those flat open face pieces are some of the details that go inside the cavity that's on the base of the wing under the engines. I'm tilting the nose cone mold here to eliminate a bubble that forms if you cast it just sitting up straight and level. A lot of times when you're casting, that's a big part of casting things well, is figuring out which way to wiggle or twist or tap a mold to ensure that the vast majority of bubbles are gone before you put them under pressure. Here, you see me grab 3 tins. I always grab 3 measuring cups. One is for one resin, one is for the other. And once you mix them together, you want to transfer them to a third cup so there's no residual unmixed layer on the edges, which are virtually impossible to scrape off. And you don't want any of that unmixed resin to get into your molds. Here I am mixing not enough resin. You'll see later I have to mix up more. The amount of colorant you put in, this is so strong colorant, sort of by eye. I mean, I know how many drops to put in just by virtue of doing it dozens and dozens and dozens of times. Another decision you have to make virtually anytime you're laying out a bunch of things to pour is which ones to fill first, what order to fill them in. A lot of times if you are really easy, like a mold that takes a lot of resin and can get poured in very quickly, you'll do that as first. The more resin you leave in your cup, because it cures with the heat that it generates on itself, the faster you can get it out of your mixing cup, the longer working time you have and the thinner it'll stay. Here I remember that I need to tilt this mold, otherwise a big chunk of air will be trapped. So you pour it in, you basically fill up that cavity that will appear if it's poured level. Obviously you can't leave it like this, but you do that first, give it a few taps, and then when you tilt it up, it's all submerged in the resin, so that bubble will never form. The theoretical bubble that would have been there if I just kept pouring. And the only way you know that is you cast it 2 or 3 times and that bubble just persists and persists. And you can do some things like cutting little extra holes in the mold, give it the air a place to go. But if you can find a way to tilt it so the air pocket never ends up being in there, it's a better way to go. The extra little blocks I put on top or so you can over pour the resin a little bit when you put it in the pressure pot. And as bubbles come out, the level will go down. If you can over pour it a little bit, you can ensure that the mold will stay full. Here I am deciding or discovering that I didn't have enough. Quickly mix up a little bit more. I have found that if you do this quick enough and throw it in an existing mold that has resin that's fixing to cure already, it's fine. Always works out fine. You just don't want to be in a real hurry and not mix it well enough. And as you see me carrying this over here, this is why I place all the molds so I can easily carry it in a vertical fashion and don't spill anything. Again, I need to come up with a easier hand method of tightening this lid enough so I don't have to use tools. But I feel like it's never going to happen. You can see the extra bit on top. Just fine, breaks right off. But it ensures that you don't have any voids in the actual part. This was a 2-part mold. I actually made the little base thing you see me pulling off here. I took a 3D model and 3D printed a little base to stick on my master of the nose cone. So it gave me a nice little standoff to do a 2-part mold like that. And here you see a full cleanup of the little sprue gate and a little bit of flash because of the 2-part mold. And basically I do this to virtually every part as I demold it. And oftentimes I'll actually test fit every single part on a semi-completed model in the place it goes to make sure every piece is done and ready for building. This is a part from the C-Lab 3 kit, the Aurora. This is another part that I don't think anybody's ever gotten right on a studio scale kit. It's kind of like everybody puts it vertical, slapped up against the wall. Here's another part from the C-Lab kit. These little bits that people don't seem to put on the wing boxes on the inside of the wings. But you'll see when I go to build them where they go. This here is the third molding I'm doing of these like half engine pieces that go on the inside of the wing. There are 3 distinct versions that I have found so far on, red 1, red 2, red 3, red 5, etc. Anywhere you can see what part they actually used, I can find 3 different variations. And this is one of them. And here's the cockpit. That part I'm breaking off right there is on the master. I put some very thin plastic, which basically tied it all together. And what it does is allows me to cut the mold halves apart, just like the wings. Lets me cut the mold halves apart and go into that, like basically pre-separated seam line. And it's a very thin, like 10 thou piece of plastic. So even if it left a little flash like it did there, it breaks right off, or it's easy to clean up. This is the studio scale version of the cockpit that uses all the aircraft and such kit parts. I like it better. A lot of people make the like 1-to-1 full-size shooting model cockpit, but for studio scale I like the originals. You can see this is all the mold parting lines and flash, and that's the overpour that I'm cutting off. Again, most of the parts, when I take them out of the mold, I do as much as I can to get the part prepped. At this point, the plastic is strong enough to handle and not really bend that much, but it's just soft enough so that big sprue gates and pour gates and such, very easy to cut. It's just slightly soft. And just like every mold, hit it with a little mold release, let that dry thoroughly before moving back to the talc and pouring another set. Some of the molds you obviously can't get very much in there, but every little bit helps the molds last longer, as far as I've been told. Can't really tell. They don't last as long as you would hope, that's for sure. This is Mold Max 40, the green stuff. So that's a tin cure, not a platinum cure. I have never actually used a platinum cure to silicone, so I probably will try that at some point and see how well it works. Thanks for watching. If you're coming at this from YouTube and not from the forums, There's links in the description for the forum posts as far as me building this kit. Thank you very much.